Yeah!
Connecting to the internet!
No one makes a fool out of me! Get a load of this!
There's only one real Sonic!
Hey there, this is Rick with the True Sonic Spirit channel for Bye Bye 2016. I'm joined by several others today. We've got Roger here.
Hello, that's me.
Dracold.
Hello.
And Cerberus.
Yo.
Alright, so we're basically going to be discussing the past year of Sonic, what we thought of it, what we thought of things happening, some little opinions, retrospective, as we move into the new year, and hopefully 2017 being a much better year for Sonic.
The actual anniversary year. This didn't
Yeah.
really feel like a good anniversary year.
No. And out of everything in this year, a lot of people have referred to, what was it? Aaron said 2015 was the Sonic's year of memes, or was it this year?
As opposed to this year didn't
As opposed to
have
this year. So let's just say this is the year of memes 2, Fire and Ice.
Both years feel the same, really.
Okay. So, that being said, I think everyone here can kind of agree that the Sonic Twitter, being the main focus of this year, had a lot of wasted potential.
Yeah.
Agree.
So, I mean, obviously they could have done some things like reestablish characters, translate the Japanese comics, because they did, the Japanese Sonic Twitter was actually putting out a bunch of new official Sonic comics that focus on each separate character. They even did one for Styx, and you'd think that the Sonic social media would be posting these up, but no, fans had to do it. Fans had to post them separately, and they're actually quite hard to find in English. They even managed to make Styx funny. So, I mean, if anything shows that it really matters what the writer is, it's that. But on top of that, they didn't advertise Sonic and Mario at the Rio Olympic Games or Fire and Ice at all. I actually have an interesting point for that one, because as a collector, I check out this stuff. Rio 2016 on the Wii U has sold so poorly that it's now almost impossible to find. It's a rare collector's title. It's going for like $120, $130.
Already? Wow.
Yeah, already. That's how badly it's sold.
But to be fair, I think the Twitter did make a video for Fire and Ice, but only months after its release, so a bit late.
Yeah.
But I never saw the game laying in stores, so...
No, so it seems like it was more advertising the standard Sonic Adventure jokes, which, guess what, aren't in a game, or at least aren't in a game they're selling for money.
Oh, well.
Though I will laugh if Big's Fishing Adventure becomes a pay game officially released by Sega.
Who knows?
So basically, Styx had no really Sonic Boom-ish dialogue or anything like that?
Oh, in that specific comic, yeah, it was actually a little bit more clever. I mean, it still had the idea of the conspiracy. I think it was something like her being tempted by like sweet food and television. It's a very Japanese gag, but it's less her actually thinking it's conspiracies and more like blaming the TV and blaming them for what she knows she's just eating and getting fatter.
But yeah, that's really the big difference between Japanese and America, right? That the Japanese celebrate the characters and let the characters be characters, while the American is much more meta. It's much more about the world around the characters, more about the performers, the actors, the fans.
Yeah.
That kind of annoys me, that meta perspective.
I can understand.
I noticed the difference in humor in all sorts of regions. Yeah.
I'll actually say to our listeners, viewers, whatever this is, do try and check out the translated Japanese Sonic Twitter comments just to get an idea of how incredibly different the social medias are and how custom tailored ours is in a strange direction.
I believe you can find them on like Tumblr or something.
You probably can, yeah. They're translated, don't worry.
Yeah, I've seen them on.
But besides that, there was also a major problem with Sonic Boom's episodes being aired at the wrong times on the wrong networks, and the Twitter didn't take any action to help people find out when.
That's so weird because, they're fighting against people putting it on YouTube, but they're not helping people seeing it on TV.
Yeah, I mean, I will admit, one thing that was interesting is the episodes continue to decline. Obviously, there's a little more after the hype around Ian Flynn writing an episode. That one had a little bit higher viewership, but it's pretty abysmal. And of course, part of that was also it being moved to Boomerang, which is a channel most people don't have.
Because the episodes have improved in quality a bit, sorry.
They have improved a little bit. They seem to have gone from bad okay to just okay.
Pretty much. Just mundane,
All right.
but not bad anymore.
But Now, what the Twitter did do, even though it didn't do all those things, is it pretty much sent everyone on this weird treasure hunt. Weber made a bunch of riddles to just try what the nature of this new game was. And of course, everyone's thinking, oh shit, is this info about, a real Sonic game? Is this info about 2017? Is this info about Mania? No, it's info about Big's Adventure. What do you guys think on that?
That was very disappointed.
Yeah, that was just a wild goose chase.
It's a fun idea. I appreciate it doing something, but if you set up a treasure hunt, there better be a treasure. Otherwise, you get a lot of angry children, and we Sonic fans can be very childish, of course.
It sort of reminds me of an old Sega Genesis game about Ronald McDonald, where they go to the fucking moon looking for treasure, and the treasure is a ride home.
Yeah,
that's comparable. Yeah. Well.
All right. Another thing to move on from the Twitter is I think we've pretty much said our piece on that. Good luck next year, Weber. You'll need it. The change in eras. Basically, we had almost no interest in the Sonic universe during Pontac Freiberger era. But in 2016, we seem to be entering a completely new era of Sonic where instead of having absolutely no interest in Sonic, we have incredible interest in tiny, minute details of things that have happened, more references than actual new ideas, like an internet trivia era, a meme era, something like that.
You see that with Knuckles, that his Master Emerald Guardian element is returned a lot more, but it still doesn't actually affect his personality or his attitude. It's just a piece of trivia floating around him. It's like he's still the same idiot, but now he mentions he has an emerald somewhere. Yep. It doesn't fuel him. It doesn't power him. He doesn't act like the part.
He's basically completely ripped from his original status as a guardian, like a mystical guardian with an attitude.
Yeah, at first it was completely ignored, but now it returns, but it still doesn't power the character. It's just a piece of trivia.
It's not fully as fleshed out as it used to be.
Didn't they mention it once?
Sonic Runners?
Yeah, and Lego Dimensions.
Lego Dimensions makes sense, yeah. Lego Dimensions is interesting.
Other than that, it is not as strong as it used to be.
But that's just one example. But yeah, you've seen the writing, especially Big's Adventure, the demo version. Like it's an adventure love letter, but only in terms of trivia, not really in terms of the energy, not in terms of what really happened, how the characters really acted. It's just, hey, remember when Eggman said get a load of this, and hey, remember this.
Yeah.
It's just a grocery list of trivia instead of any energy, any rhythm, any stuff happening.
Yeah.
It's basically like comparing a Robot Chicken parody to like a Lego game.
Pretty much. I feel I don't want to sound too blunt or anything, but I feel that just random references isn't exactly enough to entice me to get interested. You gotta throw the shit at me. You gotta show the energy, the power, the rock music, all that crazy stuff that made
That's our point. We have the facts, but it doesn't have energy. It doesn't live. It's just kind of there.
At this point, Sonic's pretty much just the member berries from this season of South.
Yeah, because when you look at the Sonic Adventure intro, you'd be like, there's blue sky, pans down to the city, there's people just running around, and then suddenly, boom, water all over the place, and thunder and lightning and booming sounds, the kind of stuff you hear in a theater or something,
Even before you hear the intro song. Even before you hear the intro song.
You just hear a fast-paced percussion sound, and there's Sonic running, like his feet go right with the rhythm, and just boom, boom, and all this crazy stuff.
And all games just start with, hey, remember the title screen? Hey, remember Green Hill Zone?
Yeah, everyone remembers Green Hill Zone. Green Hill... I've said before, I'm looking forward to all the different levels in Sonic Mania. We're going to have Green Hill Zone, Emerald Hill Zone, Angel Island, Seaside Hill,
and just to shake things up. Then we get a burning jungle. That's at least something.
Yeah, we get a burning jungle. That's at least a little different. And of course, to shake things up, Green Hill Zone from Sonic 2 8-bit.
I want to see Mega Green Hill Zone in better graphics.
Mecha Green Hill was interesting. And if we're just going to have a Green Hill Zone game, that would be a little more interesting. But unfortunately...
Green Hill Zone the game, where you play as Green Hill Zone.
Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, there has been a huge focus on Sonic Adventure humor this year, especially with the Twitter. But it's hard to see why. I mean, we've had an interview with Weber earlier. We know that he doesn't make fun of the more recent games because he's afraid he would get in trouble or get fired for making fun of people who are still working there who may have seniority over him.
Maybe it's just the only era rich enough to even inspire any jokes. Although classic Sonic also has plenty of joke opportunities. But maybe he's just trying to please us, which fails because, again, we want that energy of the adventure games, not just the trivia. Or maybe it's just an attempt to aggressively absorb the adventure era into this meta nerd trivia comedy era that it's trying to make as one big thing.
I can see that. Those all make sense as possibilities.
There's a difference between just random trivia and actually respecting the source material,
Of course.
Just like fully realizing the source material. Like, you can't just have Batman say, "I am the Knight," but not, and just move on to the next scene, Well,
they respect it, they just have nothing to do with it, and they can't emulate the energy.
I have a little bit of a theory with this myself. One thing that I've noticed, especially with this year, is that there's been a huge focus on Sonic merchandise, even though there's no new games to promote them with. There's been all this classic merchandise, all this other merchandise. Obviously, the classics are cemented enough that people will just buy it if it says, like, a basic phrase or has a basic picture from classic. I'm curious if this focus on the adventures is an attempt to get those remembered slogans enough in people's minds that they can actually market sort of Sonic Adventure merchandise based around these moments or these things that, Aaron's promoting, or God knows, Big the Cat mugs or something.
I'm surprised we have seen so little Big the Cat merchandise.
Think about it. Yeah.
And he had no response to that.
I mean, for me, I would have liked a Sonic Adventure shirt with the ancient ruins printed on it or something. Chaos, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or Master Emerald or the Space Colony Arc.
But if you look at the trends with nerd merchandise, especially if you go to somewhere like Hot Topic or Spencer's, if you're in America, you notice a lot of it is more based on just popular catchphrases, popular memes within the show, sometimes just like a character with some sort of edgy teen line. So I know that Weber's attempting to appeal to teenagers with it, especially with the whole Game Grumps thing, since that's their biggest audience, and possibly kids. So I'm wondering if there could be a sort of merchandising angle to what's been happening with the adventure era, because people are just about the right age to have enough spare cash to want to buy pointless shit like that right now that grew up with the adventure games.
I'm surprised Boom doesn't have any kind of catchphrase or something.
Yeah, I mean besides,
unless you count like Evil Ham or something.
Yeah,
like
but
the evil candy, and the thing I liked about that, are we going to take? You want to talk about the Ian Flynn episode of Boom a little here, since it was a little bit different?
I haven't seen it, so you guys go on.
So basically, with the Ian Flynn episode of Boom, since there recently, this was interesting. Is even though we've been seeing Boom for so many years, this was a very notably different episode than everything we've seen before, and that's because Ian Flynn, the writer of the Archie comics, was the lead writer on it. There's a couple minor things like the evil ham joke being turned into evil candy actually having a punchline of sorts instead of just being a catchphrase. There has also been some new strengths to it. It felt like the plot was a little bit more gathered together and actually resolved. But there were some new weaknesses since Flynn never wrote for TV before. What do you think of it, Raj?
They did a better job in actually utilizing the theme than usual, because it's about Tails trying to catch Sonic, and they really went with that theme. I really appreciate that, because usually Boom is way too mundane and boring to really capitalize on the cartoon possibilities. So it had a very great energy to it. It kind of reminded me of the old Adventure of Sonic the Hedgehog episode with all the chili dogs baits. But other than that, it was an okay episode.
Yeah, I mean, I found it interesting that you could tell that the writer was mostly experienced with comics. Often characters would yell out like, "Oh no, I forgot to do this. This is happening," instead of actually showing it, because
like
that's more commonplace.
Super Friends episodes.
Yeah, or the old Super Friends episodes, which is mostly a practice that comes into play because, with a comic book, you have a limited amount of pages, you have a limited amount of panels. You don't want to constantly be panning to new shots to explain things. So you just have recaps. Like you read in old comic books, you'll see, this happened in Sonic the Hedgehog number 63 or something like that.
But you'd think that works fine for a short cartoon because in 11 minutes you don't have much time to screw around either.
So that was one noticeable change from the standards. Other Sonic Boom episodes, I'd say the second season has been a little better. Maybe not much, but a little better. It seems like they understand. There have been less episodes that don't go anywhere. I've noticed they actually do resolve of sorts.
I saw Eggman attacking a villager once. Wow, it's almost like they remember he's a bad guy. Ooh.
Yeah, that was special.
The only thing I can say about Sonic Boom Season 2 thus far is just the animation quality has been upped about like 5% maybe.
Yeah, I've noticed they have more scenes, they have a little more motion. I noticed some episodes are much better animated than others, the season premiere especially. Had good animation. And
that's usually the case. I mean, Season 1 had better animation than pretty much everything else after it.
I mean, I have heard in interviews with I believe Freiberger at Sonic Revolution 2016 that they have a very limited budget for it and they can only afford like I think 5 backgrounds per season. That's how much Sega's starving them for money. So maybe they gave them 5 more this time.
Hooray. Yeah. And I already saw one of them in the water, so only 4 backgrounds to
go. Only 4 to go. But yeah, one thing to note is that it's pretty much been well established. It's still a rumor, but it's a very reputable source that Sega of Japan is pulling the plug on Boom, calling it a complete failure, and it's probably an end after Season 2. Cartoon Network obviously trying to kill the show by, again, putting it on Boomerang, putting in horrible time slots, pulling new airings for Teen Titans Go marathons.
Yeah, because Teen Titans Go is their cash cow. Sonic Boom is basically just there.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, when you're comparing them, at least Teen Titans Go is active. It's stupid, it's hateful, but it has its catchphrases. It has merchandise that sells to kids because it's written for kids, most of it. And don't get me wrong, don't get me started about the 7 Attack the Fans episodes. God, Sonic Boom has nothing on that. But that being said, Sonic Boom cartoon was interesting. It changed things up a little this year, but nothing too special. All right, moving on from this. This has gone too long. Big topic of conversation this year, the focus on the egos of fans, which sort of goes back to the sort of nerdy era of Sonic where we're more interested in the little details of the games. Everything seems to be written from a meta perspective. The characters only operate from the logic of our own world. You have anything to add to that, Raj?
Yeah, well, cool. It's something we already complained a lot before, the increase of fourth-wall humor. I remember we had an interview with Weber, and I noticed a lot we constantly ask questions about the product and the content of Sonic, while his answers were usually just an attempt to stroke our egos. Hey, I like 06 too. Hey, your site is good. Hey, I like Avenger. Like trying to please us with just our egos, but that doesn't have any effect on us. Like we just want good content. We don't care if we're liked or not. We're already one of the most hated Sonic groups on the internet, so whatever. But yeah, it's constantly like that. Again, the Japanese Twitter, it has all those comics celebrating the characters for being characters, and then our Twitter is just, basically just celebrating the voice actors, celebrating the staff, celebrating the fans, but it's not celebrating the actual Sonic universe.
It's celebrating the people behind Sonic instead of Sonic.
Yeah, and it started to kind of annoy me right now. It's like we're not allowed inside Sonic's universe anymore to really care about the characters. We're just constantly supposed to look at them literally as a product.
You got anything to add to that, Jack?
Oh, well, I don't think that Weber even knows how to celebrate the universe, because I don't know if you asked him in the interview, but there was a question about if he knows the difference between Boom and usual Sonic.
Yeah.
I don't think he answered, so...
he said he didn't know, or he didn't dare to know, or something like that.
Something like that. That makes sense.
But it's clearly to see in the writing. I mean, LEGO Dimensions pretty much writes all that. Even though it's supposed to be an Adventure parody, but everyone's really like their Sonic Boom character anyway. They just use Sonic Adventure catchphrases. Especially Amy. Like, you'd think a parody version of Amy would be all, oh, Sonic, I want to marry you! But instead she's the opposite of that.
I think it's because that this version of Amy was so overused into last era. I know it was such a long time ago, but people really hated it. I think they really did, so they abandoned it completely. So they don't have to listen to this annoying voice, and to this annoying routine.
That's true,
what I think.
They put nothing in place, and now she's a completely lost sheep.
One other interesting thing about this year, aside from a few videos, aside from a few fans, I've noticed that the excitement for Project 2017, and even to some extent Mania, has really died down. I mean, there's no promotion of it. Rarely do we get new footage. Nothing like that at all.
Although it's the new desert stage of Sonic Mania, but
even though it's not technically new, it's more like a reimagined.
Well, even with that, I mean, think about it. Did we get like a big new announcement of the desert stage in Sonic social media or anything like? No, we got some random fucking assholes who got to play it, uploading it as the only footage and the only promotion of it.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, I understand that Sega has no money for promotion, but again, they have this Twitter. It has thousands of followers. Like, you have this amazing platform. Use it. Like, that doesn't cost money, or is Weber asking extra $1,000 for every tweet he makes or something? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't understand it myself. It's just, I've never seen a company just hog all the information. No pun intended.
Well, I understand with Project 2017 is still a year off, and usually they don't announce it until 6 months in advance.
Yeah, but Mania comes out a few months later.
That's true, yeah. But I guess they just can't reveal anything about Mania. It just doesn't have all that much under the hood. It's just, here's a bunch of levels, enjoy.
You know, it's 2D game, it's sprite game, so they don't really have much material, you know. They won't have cuts. They won't have anything like that, so if they want to reveal much more, they will have to, you know, show the stages. And if they show all the stages, that's gonna be it.
I was gonna say at least give me some details on the plot. They said there's a plot, so...
Yeah, but this is made for the elitists, huh? So they're scared of plot. That ruins games. The gameplay will collapse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I wonder if Fang is gonna appear as a boss, because if he just shows up as a background cameo, I'm gonna be angry, because, again, that's a trivia stuff. Hey, remember this guy? Don't just make me remember. Use him! You know, you have an official game. Just use those characters. Use the lore. Do something exciting.
That poster thing was already used in Generations, so kind of stop teasing me.
Yeah, and then Generation didn't do anything either.
I'm pretty sure we're gonna get a joke about remembering the poster in Generations instead of the character.
That would be great. Hey, remember when you remembered memories?
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember remembering. I never forget remembering. I dream about remembering.
Honestly, with all this stuff going on, with this year being all about remembering and Big the Cat and all that, can we just actually call 2017 the real anniversary year? All the cool stuff's going to happen then. 2016 was more the same.
Honestly, we should stop remembering and actually putting things to good use.
Yeah, the momentum run out. Sonic needs to revitalize itself.
You know, like, hey, remember the Space Colony Arc? Well, maybe there's more lore to be explored in there. Who knows?
It's very possible.
Yeah, I don't mind choosing the past, but use it. Do something new. Build on top of it. Don't just shove it in our face again.
Yeah, or remember the Babylonians? How about more lore?
You know? Yeah. No, they don't want to remember things that take effort and make you think more. That's like a big difference between modern Sonic and past Sonic. Old Sonic games inspired a lot of people. They inspired people to create their own parts of the lore. That's where the whole, you know, the fan characters, all that came from. But modern times, even nowadays, we look back on that. A lot of people see it as, you know, oh my God, cringe. How could we think of this? How could we think of this? We're so bad. We're 5 or 10. We should stop trying altogether. That sort of mindset is bleeding into modern Sonic.
That's true.
That's why there's a lot of things I want to see, you know, expanded on, like, say, the Battlebird Armada from Tails Adventure, that some comic giant just recently reviewed. You know, they're birds, you know, and we now know that the Babylon Rogues themselves are birds and they're from another planet or something. Well, what about the Battlebird Armada being of the same lineage, Babylons and stuff, and, you know, they might have their own goals. What exactly are they doing here? Why they're evil? You know, like, we want to know. What are they looking for?
The comics, probably one of the few cool things that happened this year, are actually taking a lot of those characters and putting them back in the focus. You've got the Battle Cuckoo Army, as you're talking about, coming back. You've got the characters from Tails Sky Patrol. Never expected to see them again.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I honestly didn't think they would remember them now. If only they can bring back Tiara Bobaski.
Yeah, the Archie comics are the only ones really using the lore, and that's why I hope Ian Fleming gets the right actual Sonic stuff.
If you notice, it's not just like when those characters do come in, if you read with the Battle Cuckoo Army, it's not just saying like, remember when we fought Tails, remember when we did this? They actually redeveloped the character personalities. They rebooted everyone a little. They made them a little more interesting. They made them work with the universe. That's what we want to see in Sonic. Battlelord
Cuckoo is really a threatening villain. Like, he don't mess around. He's kind of like a mix of, Joker and some other villains, I can already imagine him being voiced by Mark Hamill.
There you go. See, this is just a comic book. These are literally just pictures, and we're getting more excited by pictures than the cartoon, the action cartoon, than the games, the action games.
Quote-unquote action cartoon.
But didn't you really like Defect, the exciting new villain from Sonic Boom Fire and Ice?
Oh, totally yeah, the one is like, let's see, I actually did watch the cutscenes for that game. Let me see if I remember what happens. Defect gets adopted by Styx, and he's angry, and he needs a hug. Was that it?
Oh, yeah, Defect.
Am I the only one who played the game?
I think so. I bought it for my roommate for Christmas, but I'm not touching it.
Yeah, Defect.
It's an okay game. It's kind of boring, but it's alright.
Yeah, honestly, when it comes to okay, this is a personal point of contention for me. Okay is killing Sonic, and it's honestly killing the entire creative franchises of everything. Because we've come to a point where creative concepts become such a business. You notice in Hollywood, most popular grossing movies, this is a well-documented thing where there's been a drought of new original content in Hollywood making enough money to survive. Most of our movies nowadays are reboots, sequels, something that existed at the very latest in the 90s, if not far, far before that.
Well, at least they're doing things with it. They're doing more than just, hey, remember Darth Vader?
Yeah, they're doing more with it.
Hollywood is still better than Sonic.
Yeah, still better than Sonic. But a lot of these movies, a lot of these games, a lot of these old franchises that are still going from that time are settling for okay games, okay movies, okay books, and Sonic is definitely one of them. When it comes to game design, when it comes to movie making, when it comes to music, anything, it's all a creative endeavor. It's not an objective thing. It's all subjective. And the thing is, when we come to a point where just about everyone's paying for media because it's finally made affordable to everyone via stuff like Netflix, games going digital, lots of Steam sales and everything, developers have begun to focus more on, not that they never did, but developers become so focused on sales, so driven to get certain numbers that creatively it's a danger to those sales to take risks with game design. It's a danger to try and put more effort in than the time requires, or to try a new idea that they don't think was approved by a test group.
Honestly, I like it when Sonic doesn't have too many new ideas, because they always go crazy with their new ideas.
Whole lot of ideas you can be done with Sonic. You just got to do them competently. You can't just throw in a bunch of stuff and just call it a day, like Sonic Lost World.
That's just an idea compilation. Yeah.
What's become so worrying, especially about Sonic, and especially with the Boom franchise, hopefully this will be changed around. Obviously, it's present with Classic. Is companies are becoming too scared of trying any new ideas because they could fail, even though they could succeed. So they're sort of resorting to things that are only safe, only just okay. That things that they know don't have the potential to become great or really good, but will at least not piss people off. And that's pretty much what's going on with all of gaming right now. That's your Super Mario runs. That's your Call of Duties, where it's so focused on not being offensive that it's not being interesting anymore.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. And in terms of trying something, I don't think they understand the difference between being new and being interesting.
They just don't seem to be in touch with what people really care about. It's like a street performance. When it's for free, that people will watch it, but they want to actually spend money on it.
Like, Sonic Lost World tried to be new, but is it interesting?
We want an evolution, not something really new. Just take what you have and evolve.
I actually have a point to add here, because I was boring enough to actually read a lot of the product placement interviews and a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff while Boom was being developed. A lot of the decisions weren't made by the game developers, weren't made by the creatives. They were made entirely separate from the actual game designers by basically reaction teams. Like, they'd bring in a bunch of kids, they'd have them play the game, they get their comments, like test audiences and such. And these kids were all like maybe 6 to 8 years old, and they were all Call of Duty fans. And they played a build of Sonic Boom where Sonic actually ran fast, and they were being told, we want this to be like what you like, which is Call of Duty, which obviously plays a lot slower. They're saying the character runs too fast, we can't control him well. So just because of that, even though it made the game not work, Sonic's controls were slowed down. Designs and characters were changed. Amy's personality, whatever the fuck it was supposed to be, got changed because there was an agenda they were trying to push to try and get girls to buy Amy shirts on the product, on the marketing side. I'm not joking about that.
I don't think they were asking actual girls. This is what happens in today's industry. They are pushing agenda not because of what children say, but because of what moral guardians say.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, moral guardians. Yeah, the same people try to dictate what what is okay and what is not in the game, even if it's entirely minor.
I actually have a very interesting point to bring up here that's more related to past Sega, because I've been reading a book recently called Console Wars by Blake Harris. It's really fantastic. I highly recommend it. It basically is a novelization of the Genesis versus Super Nintendo wars of the 90s, usually in the perspective of Sega's lead marketer, which was, what's his name again? Genesis guy?
Kalinske?
Oh,
yeah, Kalinske. Tom Kalinske, guys, it's Tom, I don't remember him. Anyway, so there's this one portion of the book where it's talking about Sega going up against Nintendo, and Nintendo being very Puritan, very obsessive with keeping things happy and safe in development. There was actually a point in time where Nintendo's lawyer, Howard Lincoln, was going to work with Sega because he wasn't feeling satisfied with Nintendo after he'd already made the company successful. And there were always clashes between him and Kalinske, because Kalinske was pretty much being the anti-Nintendo by pushing sort of nonconformity, pushing edginess, trying new things that Nintendo wasn't doing. And Lincoln was obsessed with that Puritan behavior. He didn't want to expose kids to violence, sex, anything like that. He specifically got really offended by Streets of Rage. But Kalinske continued to run the company despite that in the direction he did, because he knew that's what was making their games sell. And that it feels like Sega is essentially no longer Kalinske, now they're that Howard Lincoln.
Yeah, it's basically like
Nintendo,
Nintendo was all casual and safe, but Sega was all about kicking ass and taking names.
Spectacle, crazy taxi, Streets of Rage, indeed. Action,
all the crazy stuff.
Energy.
You got your Sonics, you got your Panzer Dragoons, you got your Vectormans.
Arcades, just sell, blow it up.
Arcades, your House of the Deads.
One thing I noticed a lot is that Sonic used to be very representative of, high impact action American culture. They didn't design the games based around the stupid Japanese shit, save for a few dumb bosses and like the Game Gear games. They would design it around, popular action movies at the time. They did all their games like that. They were games made for an American youthful audience. Nowadays, the games are made for the nerds. Yeah. Nowadays, the games are being made as the audience instead of for the audience.
Pretty much the audience is the bloody big nose hair, and
yeah. Oh boy.
Riveting dialogue straight out of elementary school bullying. You're fat, you're bald, you have mustache. What a clever and smart humor this is.
Yeah. Alright, so I know they're clobbering.
There's also a lot of concern over, like the speed of the games, how fast Sonic needs to run, how much of the game autoplays itself. Well, it's more about Sonic feeling fast and exhilarating, feeling like an action movie. It's not about literally how fast you're running. If you compare a modern Sonic game to like Sonic 3 or even like a treasure game on the Genesis like Gunstar Heroes or Alien Soldier, you notice that it's not necessarily how fast you're moving, but how fast-paced the world around you is moving.
Yeah, Sonic Adventure, the snowboarding is slow, but because there's all explosions and stuff and the music, it makes it feel fast.
It makes it exciting.
It feels fast. I played Sonic 2 when I was a kid, and while I wasn't blazing through the stage like a maniac, I at least felt the speed.
Yeah.
Because the graphics, the 3D illusion.
The movement, the level design, like Sonic Colors is not fast because the level design constantly slows you down. It constantly forces you to be too quiet, to look around.
Chemical Plant is an excellent example of this.
Yeah. You've got a level where a lot of the time you're moving slow. That's another thing is that, the sense of danger has slowly been leaving Sonic games as well. I mean, if you look at Sonic Boom, you've got, Shattered Crystal, where if you fall into a pit, you just zoom back to before you fell and you lose some rings. And with Sonic Boom, dying literally does nothing. You just automatically respawn where you were with 30 rings. Enemies don't have any less damage on them from when you killed them. You don't have to redo anything again. There's no risk. That's part of what makes action exciting. The idea that, if you fail, there's consequences.
There's no spectacle either. Like, fighting enemies is so boring in Sonic Boom. Like, a Shattered Crystal is just poof. There's no punch to it, no explosion. It's just poof.
Meanwhile, in games like, say, Doom, where you're punching the crap out of imps, and suddenly you're rewarded with health points and ammo and all that good stuff. You feel powerful. It's like,
I can understand that. Sonic's mostly been going through a drought of all that. It's been going through okay games that are afraid to do those exciting things just in case they do them wrong. So they stick to things they can only do right, but they can only do okay.
Same with the plot holes. They're scared of plot holes. Just don't even try.
So scared of plot holes, don't even try. So that's pretty much where we are right now. 2016 was overall a year of fear, marketing, failure, and okay.
But technically well executed. The games were pretty decent.
They were decent, yeah. We actually haven't talked much about LEGO Dimensions Sonic yet. We mentioned it slightly, but we haven't gone deep into it. For anyone who's actually played it through, what did you think of it?
I played it through. The Wii U version's a bit unstable, but as a game itself, I really enjoyed it a lot.
I've heard the other console versions are better.
Yeah, I like the level choices, the story, and the way it's presented is way better than Generations. They were much more playful with it. The jokes were, but not too bad. Except for one conversation between Sonic and Eggman was really painful.
Yeah, the first boss. One thing that a lot of people brought up is kind of interesting is the fact that there's almost no classic Sonic music in the game. They're all like replacements.
Yeah, although the replacement music tracks are pretty good. So
they're pretty good, but it's interesting that I think that's more on Sega's side. Either they couldn't get the rights or Sega had so little faith in the project as being so cheap they wouldn't even renew the rights from Dreams Come True to their own music.
Who knows? It's kind of weird with LEGO because some games have a lot of expensive music, like Back to the Future has all the pop music and all the themes and all the 80s tracks. But then The Simpsons also doesn't have the theme song, and so Scooby-Doo neither, so it's really random sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's more based on a development basis with which ones they, which ones they put more money into, which ones they think are going to sell better. So Sega probably had very little faith in how well the Sonic one was going to sell, so they didn't pour the money in.
That's sad because it is the best Sonic thing we got in a long time. Sad.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah, it's basically the most adventure-esque thing we've had in quite a while.
Yeah, it has some good moments, and it's really fun to really control Sonic in a 3D environment. Finally,
in terms of
across water, it's really fun to control. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, of course you got Chaos at the end because I'm surprised they didn't actually make him a parody.
Yeah, he's pretty.
It is surprising. But of course, I mean, it is a little bit tiresome that it's comedy, even though the LEGO games are usually known for comedy.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, I'm okay with the individual products, but we had nothing but comedy, and right now it's just getting a little tiresome. It's like getting chocolate for dinner every single day. Like, chocolate is great, but after a while you're just like,
yeah, I can understand that. That's a pretty good analogy. It's not necessarily bad. It's just the same for so long.
Like, we need to be recharged. Like, comedy, especially parody, is like a parasite. You need a source material. You need a foundation. Sonic's foundation is just dried up.
Yeah, I can see that.
Repetition.
LEGO Dimensions was a parody of games that were released 16 years ago, even though there have been many more released more recently.
Yeah, but
I can't get too mad at LEGO because that's what they've been doing for a long time. So I can't get
it's mostly Traveler's Tales. They've been doing this for a long time. It's not even the first time they've worked with Sonic. I mean, they made 3D Blast.
Yeah, but
which is surprisingly few references, but a couple. But yeah, the LEGO Dimension is great, but if it was released like 10 years ago, it would have been fantastic. Right now, I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's nice, but I'm kind of tired of this meta self-celebration stuff. Like, we're just kind of...
Yeah, I can totally get you.
I appreciate it, and it's an improvement on some levels, but I can't get too excited about it anymore. It's like, man, you overplayed this card.
Yeah, we've been having that sort of comedy stuff since Color, so it doesn't feel special at all. It pretty much feels exactly the same.
Well, it has a slightly different sense of humor, but at least it's written by people that actually have an understanding of Sonic, unlike Pontic and Graf.
So you got that.
I suppose it's not as self-deprecating, as so to speak.
Yeah, so overall, LEGO Dimensions is just a different type of Sonic parody. So this year we've had Fire and Ice, which is somewhat self-contained, with that one line about Mushroom Hill Zone and the Sonic Parodies games. It makes no sense in the Boom universe, yeah. So, on top of everything else, we weren't talking much about Mania before. With Sonic Mania, one thing I found very interesting is that most of the levels have actually been revealed to be remakes of classic levels, so it's more generations than a new game.
That immediately killed all the interest and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, yeah, the TV studio, more stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
it shows a lack of trust, faith.
You could argue that,
playing the member berry stuff again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically like Force Awakens, Finding Dory.
Well, at least Force Awakens continued upon stuff. It doesn't just dangle things in front of you.
Yeah. Basically. Although it kind of did in some areas.
With what we've seen in Mania, very interesting so far is that, what was his face? That we've actually seen a lot of content coming out that is the original stuff, even though we know there's going to be more of the classic levels. So it makes me curious. It feels like it makes me wonder how many original levels there actually are. Like, I'm almost expecting the game to come out and the only original levels are going to be the two that we saw. And that's why they weren't trying to publicly promote the Wild West one, because that's all they've got. Everything else is just an old level.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Because if with more footage, they would show everything they have. They don't want to do that.
Well, Whitehead did say this game was going to be longer than Generations, although I'm kind of not sure about that. Yeah.
Well,
I'm not sure what he means by it being longer, because Generations was really not that long of a game.
Well, that's his point.
What was it, like 8 levels?
9.
9?
9.
Oh, I was one short. Wow.
Well, on the 3DS there were only 7, but on the
only 7 on 3DS.
9.
So yeah, it's not very hard to be more complex than that. So I'm expecting. I'm not expecting like Sonic 3 and Knuckles amount of levels. I'm expecting maybe like 10, 11. They're probably longer. They literally mean one level.
We'll see. But yeah, I don't mind old levels if at least they evolve and they really do fun things with it, put a new twist on it, change the time of day, or have it be destroyed or reconstructed, or do some cool stuff with it.
I feel that depending on what time span Mania has from all the other games, I expected Green Hill Zone to change, it's a bit of a color scheme change, a few more foliage, but more,
autumn or something,
yeah, like a lot more vegetation growing around, a lot more sparkles or sparklies, or a lot more sunshine, or
well, the sky is lighter, I think.
Yeah, the sky is lighter, and there's
so dark and
there's more waterfalls. There's in a cave. Yeah, that's like the newest feature, I suppose. The spinny Eggman thingamajig, whatever they call it. I'm not sure. It's kind of the least interesting thing I've seen from this game so far.
Honestly, the most interesting thing I've seen from Sonic Mania has been the sort of meme channel Silva Gunner actually making a completely original game based on it that uses more original levels than the final's likely going to have. That's essentially doing the opposite of what Sonic's doing and taking these references and turning them into actual gameplay, actual levels, actual experiences. It's very fascinating to me.
I'm not exactly sure what I think about the drop dash mechanic. It's not bad or anything. It's probably the least offensive of the past stuff we had.
It keeps the momentum going. That's good. That's speed without actual speed.
It's true. That's true. I'm not sure how I'm going to use it. But
I prefer it over the Wisp. They just slow everything down.
Yeah. Honestly, it's interesting. Sort of on the subject of that too. I guess going back to the Twitter a little bit, in terms of the whole meme fascination thing, I'd honestly be more interested in it if they were doing something more like what Silva Gunner's doing, because what that channel was doing is they'd have the memes, they'd have the stupid shit they're just referencing, but they'd actually develop real plot arcs and stories out of it. They made some serious effort to make this real. If you're gonna focus the social media on these memes, on these references, then if you want to get people invested, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, that treasure hunt they set up was a possibility, or Big the Cat's Adventure if it's an actual adventure. Then I'd have much more peace with it.
Yeah, I'm solely against putting memes in games really anywhere else outside the internet, because you put memes and stuff in games, it just really dates
They get
it
dated. They do get dated.
really, really fast.
Well, if they just really create a context for it and make it work, then it doesn't matter. Then it just becomes a thing. But yeah, as long as it just only operates on that meme level, hey, remember this, then it gets really annoying. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like
if you're not careful, your product is going to end up like the Powerpuff Girls reboot, and you don't want that.
no.
But yeah, the Twitter is mostly following trends instead of really creating any sort of narrative or any.
Yeah,
sort of
it doesn't really create its own stuff. It just follows others, and it's very selective in what memes it follows.
It's much better if your content creates the memes, actually. Rather, even though it's sometimes risky, like the fourth Chaos Emerald. People don't like that, at least.
But then you have to write down Dan or get 9 minutes.
I mean, even if you notice, like, there was a point in time when Undertale was big, where the Sonic Twitter was promoting Undertale and quoting Undertale memes, not Sonic memes, because they thought it would get more people looking at Sonic, when Toby said, "Oh, thanks, Sonic."
Sarcastically. And of course, don't forget about Mighty Number 9 attacking.
Oh boy,
It's really Sonic's position.
The glass house.
Sonic in the glass house. That was pretty great.
I especially love it that they call it like a resurrection of the Nintendo versus Sega. That's like comparing Godzilla versus King Kong with two old people in a rest home hitting each other with a stick. That's kind of a different level, dude.
Hey, I paid money to see that.
But yeah, going through memes and Mania and all that, it seems like there's an interesting divide between internet culture and actual culture with Sonic, both at the corporate and the fan level. Yeah,
I mean, Sonic before Colors was all about actual culture, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not the Genesis games, Star Wars, that stuff is timeless. So of course, you get the Death Egg or the Super Saiyan or anything else they could come up with. But the main thing about that was they're taking their own spin on it instead of just making it the same thing. Exactly, because the Death Egg is not some death machine that shoots a laser. It's pretty much a home base. So. Yeah, they turned things around a bit. They made it their own. Or Super Saiyan, he does not transform out of pure anger like the usual Saiyan does. He uses the Chaos Emeralds. He uses the Dragon Balls to transform, basically. Yeah. So that's sort of what Sonic used to be. It used to be taking other ideas and making it their own. Now it's just taking other ideas. Although one could argue that the Space Colony arc pretty much is the Death Star. One could argue, but it has a different backstory. It's not operating under the same premises.
We never see the Death Star really as a place of labyrinth where people live and really do stuff. It's really just a fortress. And not really a science lab. The Death Egg is more like a tyrannical sort of device. The Space Colony arc is has a more emotional backstory to it. So do you think we're going to see... Here's actually a really good question. Do you think we're actually going to see any of those big, impressive Death Egg, Death Star levels in Mania in 2016? Are we going to see that kind of sort of intense scenarios in Sonic games, or are we only going to see like the happy stuff, like the Cowboy Saloon and the movie theater? I haven't seen big Eggman bases in a long time. Jeez. I guess it's really been a long time. Probably since Sonic Riders, Egg Factory. Lego Dimensions had Chemical Factory, and now the very lame version of Death Egg Zone, I guess. But
well, if you can there are a few factory levels there.
But Sonic Boom never has any big Eggman bases. Lost World especially didn't have it.
Sort of ancient base, but
I mean, I guess the last really big impressive one was Eggman Land from Unleashed, right?
That was a very epic one. Yeah, technically, I guess the entirety of Sonic Colors was supposed to be an Eggman base, but whatever. But it wasn't. It wasn't a dangerous big one. It was like attractions. It was happy stuff. Yeah, it didn't have razors or flames or spikes. It's like when's the last time When's the last time we've seen a Sonic level where you would not actually want to go there? Everyone in Lost World. Sonic 4. I mean, like, an environment that's dangerous, not one that's, like, sickeningly fucking Polly Pocket JJ the jet plane. I know. No, I'm pretty sure the levels being made out of plastic is far more dangerous than any razor could ever be made. But it is true, Sonic 4 did have a couple of good, decent Eggman bases, just very generic ones.
The whole idea of razors, I actually have to bring up something minorly interesting here. I've noticed there's been a lot of attacking on the whole edginess this year as part of that Sonic Adventure stuff. Even the official Twitter gets into the whole Ow the Edge thing. I feel that's very poorly represented. If you look back to some of the older games, I mean, I literally have a complete in-box copy of Knuckles Chaotix, and it describes Knuckles as the edgiest echidna on the block.
It's very ironic they're against it, since edginess is what made Sonic popular in the first place.
Yeah. And they sort of define it as completely over the top, completely this one wrong idea, instead of just being a little nonconformist.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's made Sega popular. That's what made them stand out.
That's what made them stand up against Howard Lincoln and the fucking things Nintendo would do with their games. That's what made people want Sega. That's the Mortal Kombat blood, you know? That's Night Trap, sort of.
It's like, it's like whereas Nintendo completely censored the blood, Sega let you have it.
To be fair, Nintendo realized they fucked up and turned it on later, but that first game, most Mortal Kombat games were bought on Sega consoles after, even though they were identical on SNES.
Pretty much, yeah. Especially games like Primal Rage, even though I'm talking more on a graphical perspective, because the Super Nintendo version of Primal Rage is awful.
And admittedly, most versions of Primal Rage were awful, even the 32X one.
Yeah, that was pretty bad, but the arcade version and PlayStation version are the best.
Probably about all we can talk about here. Does anyone have any closing thoughts on Sonic's year of 2016 or any hopes for 2017 now?
We didn't talk about the Olympic Games, but that's even more
pointless. Well, I mean, I did mention that Rio sold so poorly that it's now a rare collector's item.
That's true. Yeah, it's a shame they didn't have the money to remix it, because that was always the best part of those games, the music remixes. So, but they cheaped on
yeah, that's a shame. That might be just the ultimate expression of how pathetic it was. And I'm not going to say they didn't advertise it. I saw advertisements in stores many times when it was new. It's just nobody was buying it.
Yeah, but the Sonic Twitter itself didn't advertise it, or the Sega blog. Maybe it's just Nintendo putting up weird rules. I mean, Nintendo was on a big, strong, self-destructive collision course this year. Killing fan games, killing promotion, killing everything.
They basically just mentioned it like once or twice, and it's completely obscure again.
But yeah, whatever. The Olympic Games, what it is. Yeah, what you said. Let's just assume that 2017 is the actual anniversary year, and just presume this is just another 2015. Just more boredom.
Yeah. So that ends the year of boredom. Anyone else have anything to say, or are we going to be wrapping this up?
Maybe I could say something more about the comedy, because I don't feel like there is a problem only because there is too lot of it and there is no alternative. I think there is also another problem that comes from the fact that they don't try anything new, and they always need to base the next installments on what happened last time. So the comedy, not only it's ever present, but it's actually evolving the direction through which it will go in the future. So it's a never-ending cycle, and I don't see them going out of it.
In other words, remembering memories of memories.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you expect 2017 to have a lot of memes and Baldy McNosehair and such?
I think it's probable. You said these games are self-contained, but I don't think so, because the games, just because they were in another universe, because they were in another continuity, spin-offs and such, it didn't matter. It never mattered before. You see, when you saw, for example, Shadow, how his personality deteriorated, it didn't matter that it came across of different spin-offs, that it came across different continuities or universes. It's just one straight line of flanderization. There is nothing that would prevent that. So if there is comedy in Sonic Boom, I don't think we can say that there won't be this kind of comedy in main Sonic.
Well, at the same time, when we do look at the trailer that was released, you notice there's a complete lack of any jokes, any humor, anything like that for 2017. Just this sort of badass action adventure era thing. We've got classic Sonic taking it down a little bit, but besides that, it seems like it's sort of gearing up to try and be more adventure styled, which brings us to a point that I believe has been pointed out before by Sonic Adventure 3, that there's this possibility we're in a sort of transitional era where we're going from people getting tired of the comedy era and slowly having elements of it, but shifting the focus more to the Sonic Adventure style games. Does anyone else believe that might be happening here?
I think it may be just advertisement, and the game itself will be just like the games before, or only a bit.
I also say this, Sonic and Mario at the Olympics, the story mode also didn't have forceful comedy. It also felt like it was written like the old games. Sure, nothing interesting happened, it was a boring story, but at least it actually felt like it came from 10 years ago and not from modern sensibilities.
Basically, the characters were actually in character.
There is hope. There's hope in blandness instead of bad blandness.
I guess my hopes for Project 2017 is that it uses the characters in the most, awesome way possible. Like, each character, whichever character they even bring out, at least get treated with some respect. Like, they do their part in the Resistance. The gun army, Amy, Rose, or, Tails, Knuckles, Shadow, whoever, Blaze, Silver, anybody.
And since we're at this point where Boom series has pretty much been canned by Sega of Japan, I think it's safe to assume that we won't be dealing with like modern, classic, and Boom Sonic in this.
And possibly not dealing with Styx.
Possibly not dealing with Styx. Styx may be integrated into the main canon. I mean, she was in the Olympic Games. It would be sort of weird to see her suddenly stop existing. Especially when every Sonic character they can use is being used right now. So we'll just have to wait and see with that, honestly. So maybe it's transition era. Maybe it's just the advertisement. I do recall the ad for Rise of Lyric being very action-packed and serious, too.
Yeah, that's really
the initial reveal.
It tried.
Yeah. Rise of Lyric is exactly what we wanted, but done in a bad way, with no energy. It's tragic. That's why I don't really hate Rise of Lyric. I'm more just sad by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had... Oh my god, this is gonna sound weird, but it actually had potential because Lyric at least had the potential to be an engrossing villain, kind of like the Mr. Freeze of Sonic,
I mean, don't get me wrong, not so much in Shattered Crystal, but in Rise of Lyric, yeah.
Yeah,
Sonic felt he's excited about adventure there, and he's not bored by it like every other modern.
Yeah.
Honestly, the only problem I have with Lyric is that he doesn't feel like he's designed like a Sonic character at all. He feels very generic, very much like he could be any Snake villain. Like if you look at Lord Hood from the comics, that's more like the kind of Snake villain I'd expect to see in Sonic.
Yeah.
Oh man, I would have actually liked to have seen him.
I do think that's why nobody really talks about Lyric at all.
I guess the only actual noteworthy thing about Lyric is that he's voiced by Scorpion. So.
Oh, is he? Well, I didn't even know that. Well, now I know.
Yeah, he's voiced by Patrick Sheets from Mortal Kombat. So.
Poor Patrick. Alrighty. Well, here's hoping for a better future for Sonic and a Rise of Lyric game or whatever kind of game like that tries to have adventurous spirit that can actually deliver. Here's hoping that Project 2017 is that Sonic game we're all hoping for. But if it's not, we'll still hope that it's at least progress towards that game instead of a step back. Because everything comes with time.
Even a new Sonic Heroes would be a step up, and that's kind of sad.
Even a new Sonic, yeah, isn't that sad? But I think that probably wraps up all our discussion for now.
Yeah.
To our listeners, thank you for listening to us ramble for God knows how long. Hopefully you actually got something out of this. We'd like to wish you all a happy new year and hopefully a new Sonic game that isn't terrible.
Let the new transition era begin. 25 minutes.
Alrighty.
Happy New Year's.
Alrighty. I was Rec. This was Roger, Cerberus, and Dracold. True Sonic Spirit Channel signing out.
Bye-bye.